New year, same old Clippers. The Clippers started out 2023 against the Miami Heat, and sadly, Kawhi Leonard did not play in the game. He was sick. Clippers had a tall task and came up short. How come it all went wrong again in the fourth quarter? The Clips losing their third consecutive fourth quarter and third consecutive game as a result. Gonna talk about it all and more on the first Locked On Clippers of 2023.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You are locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, where you can make your daily fantasy entries against the Prize Picks projections. So, welcome to 2023 here on Locked On Clippers, Clipper Nation. I am your host, Darian Vaziri, in my 18th season as a Clipper fan, and glad to bring you yet another year of Locked On Clippers podcast, my first full calendar year as the host. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod, and of course, subscribe to my YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, where tonight I did a live stream for the first time during a game, a watch along, so, may do that in the future. Remember to subscribe to Locked On Clippers as well. And tell me what you think about Ty's decision tonight to not play Terrence Mann in the fourth quarter because, oh boy, it was an interesting game and a lot of the same kind of tendencies we had seen from the Clippers. So a couple things that stuck out in this loss. The Clippers losing 110-100, and what we're going to be talking about in this episode. Same old tendencies in terms of questionable rotations in the fourth quarter with the three-guard set. Now I can say it has become the dreaded three-guard set right now. I also want to discuss if the Clippers should potentially make a trade because it is looking like we have a problem, and that is that Ty Lue has to maybe be saved by himself. And then just going to be talking about the performances of the players and the ones that were on the court. What could they have done differently? And what Miami did so well? So let's get right into it. No Kawhi Leonard in this one. Hope he's okay, and then we see him soon. Because Paul George, sadly, came up with a little hamstring injury, re-aggravated that same hamstring that caused him to miss 7 games. And that really, really worries me as a Clipper fan. And even though he did come back in the game after he went to the locker room, and he didn't even look that bad to me. He actually shot only one time in the fourth quarter, made the shot, but that was the only shot he took. And I think part of that you can say was the hamstring. He wasn't 100%, but he looked still like he was moving decently. Now, I guarantee he'll probably miss a couple of games, and if Kawhi plays, the Clippers can still potentially get wins, but if they don't have both, I have a tough time seeing that next man up mentality. However, you never know with this Clipper team. They could surprise us. But let's talk about this game. So the Miami Heat come to town. They've been playing better basketball of late. Bam Adebayo has been their best player this season. Jimmy Butler's missed a lot of games. And Jimmy Butler, he did not look like himself in this game at all. 9 points, 6 assists for him, 2 for 8 from the field. He was really invisible for a lot of the game and not playing like the Jimmy Butler that we've become accustomed to seeing. But Bam Adebayo was that dude. Tyler Hero was that dude. And they also got good contributions off the bench from Max Strus and Victor Oladipo. Now, in terms of the first quarter, I thought the Clippers were decent to start. There wasn't much to say. The Heat outscored the Clippers 34-28 in that first quarter. Thought Paul George wasn't as aggressive as you'd like to see him, especially considering Kawhi Leonard didn't play. Thought he would come out shooting a little bit more. I thought one thing that stuck out in the first quarter was Victor Oladipo and the way he was playing. He looked good coming off the bench, looked athletic, lively, was hitting some jump shots. He only made 1 3 in this game out of 3 attempts, but was 6 for 11 overall and played 30 minutes off the bench. That's Victor Oladipo. Finished with 15 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. So really solid game for him. Tyler Hero, I also thought he was really good. Obviously, he got a big contract this offseason, is now starting. He won the Sixth Man of the Year last year and well-deserved. He was good in this one as well. Obviously, their main pick-and-roll ball handler, and was scoring the ball in a lot of ways from all three levels all game long, and he shot a really good percentage from three. He had 23 points and 7 boards. He shot 7 for 15 from the field and 5 for 9 from deep, and he played 39 minutes, which was more than any player in the entire game for either team. So Tyler Hero doing his thing. And the second quarter is when the Clippers dug themselves a hole. And how did it start? Well, it started with the same issue yet again, the 3-guard set. Nico Batum was back in this game for the Clippers. You love to see it. He missed the game with that ankle sprain, but he was back in this one. However, he was being played alongside Ivica Zubac, and there was a small adjustment in this game from Ty Lue, and that was in the first half, he only played the 3-guard set with Zoo out there. So at least he had a rim protector. And I will say this, in the first half, I thought Zoo wasn't very good defensively, and I think he's honestly been a little slower of late defensively. Bam Adebayo was getting clean, wide-open looks in the pick and roll. He was hitting mid-ranges off the pick and roll. It was kind of like a mini pick and roll. It was like a mixture of a pick and pop and a pick and roll, because the pick and pop, usually the big man will just back up a little bit for a little 3-ball or something, or an 18-footer. But this one, he was rolling with the ball handler and then stopped at the foul line for that little push shot or that little mid-range. And Zubac, I think he was just kind of not respecting Bam's jump shot in the first half and wasn't really closing out on him. But he did make that adjustment in the second half. But in the first half, I thought he was just a step slow, Zoo. However, when Paul George, Marcus Morris, Terrence Mann, who started in this game, by the way, and I really like that, when those guys are fighting over screens, then Zubac feels like he can stay home because he knows that those guys have length and are going to get over the screens. But when it's Reggie Jackson, he has to overcompensate. Or even Luke Kennard, John Wall, Norman Powell, he has to overcompensate. And he was having to do a little bit of that in the second quarter. I also thought that our players, the Clipper players, and they've done this routinely at times this season, were disrespecting Zoo. The Miami Heat, are going to switch a lot because Bam Adebayo has such a unique ability to he's one of the few players in the league that can really switch 1 to 5. He can really guard guards, bigs, you name it. And the Heat are going to switch a lot. And Zoo had mismatches a couple of times, wasn't even looked at. And the Heat played a lot more zone than a lot of teams tend to play in the NBA. You saw 2-3, you saw some 1-3-1 tonight, and the Clippers routinely, especially in that second unit, and I think a large reason they went to that zone was because the Clippers had one, Ivica Zubac, who's a traditional big, but mainly John Wall. And they were trying to force the Clippers to shoot from the outside as long as it was not Luke Kennard getting open shots. And again, another team did a really good job of preventing Luke from getting shots. Only 4 shot attempts in this one. He made 3 of them. He was 2 for 2 from deep, but he only got 4 shots off. And that's because they were closing down his shots coming off screens. And when they were playing zone, I thought the Clippers did a poor job of trying to get the ball to Zubac in the high post, in which he flashed a couple times, but they didn't give him the ball. Now, I personally think when that lineup is in and they go against the zone, John Wall should be at the controls, Norman and Luke on either wing, Ivica Zubac on the baseline in the dunker spot around the basket, and Nico in the high post. That would be the ideal way to do it. But they kept wanting to go pick and roll, and it just wasn't working. And I thought the Heat's defense was leading into some offense. Bam was playing great. Hero was playing great. The Heat started to make threes, move the ball well. And the Clippers even started to go zone a little bit, and it wasn't really working. Tyler Hero made a lot of shots, and in the second quarter, it was 33-21 in favor of the Heat. And I thought that the zone was bothering the Clips, and I thought PG was really quiet. Also, Jimmy Butler was quiet, but Paul George, I'm looking at it from a Clippers perspective. He wasn't really that aggressive in the second quarter. But everything changed in that third quarter. Everything changed. And the Clippers started doing it on the defensive end. And on the defensive end, you started seeing them be just sharper in everything they did. Zubac was not dropping anymore. He was hedging every single one of Hero screens, showing, and then senior Paul George and Terrence Mann or Reggie Jackson would take the roller for just a second until Zubac could get back. And the Clipper players were all ready to close out. They were collapsing quicker, forcing turnovers. It was just beautiful. And it was starting a little bit of transition ball. Clippers went on a 10-0 run to start the quarter. Marcus Morris Sr. hit a big three. And then Terrence Mann just doing it on both ends. You saw him take the ball away from Jimmy Butler on one occasion, get to the basket and score. The Clippers were forcing turnovers. They had super active hands. I thought Reggie Jackson, honestly, was playing hard on defense and fighting over screens. But he did still kill momentum a little bit at times, trying to go one-on-one when the Clippers had the momentum going their way and could have gotten better shots. He turned the ball over one time when he tried to drive against Jimmy Butler when the Clippers could cut it down to 13 or 12. And then there was another time where they could cut it down to single digits, and he tried to go at it wasn't at Bam Adebayo, tried to go at someone one-on-one, and Bam blocked him. But overall, everyone else was doing their thing. Terrence was doing it on both ends. Senior hit 2 threes in that quarter. Paul George started getting hot. He had 13 points in that quarter and hit 3 threes in the quarter on pull-ups, even one when the Clippers swung the ball in the zone. I thought Zoo was doing a much better job closing down Bam Adebayo's space and contesting his shots, guarding him tighter in that pick and roll, and I think he was getting better support from the guys guarding the point of attack, so he didn't have to step up as much. So it was just a collective effort. Clippers went on a 23-4 run in the third, and again, outscored a team in the third quarter, this time 34-14. To 14. Wow. So, moral of the story there was that the Clippers defense started everything. That starting lineup, they were on their P's and Q's. Terrence Mann, Paul George, and Sr. were switching everything. Reggie Jackson was switching for the most part. And then when Reggie and Zoo were put in the pick and roll, Reggie was doing a better job fighting over those screens, and Zoo was staying attached to Bam Adebayo a lot better. But it was so much sharper, and it was great stuff. How did it all go wrong, though? How'd the Clippers lose their third straight fourth quarter? They lost it 29-17. Gonna be talking about how it all went wrong coming up. Prize Picks is your best place to make quick money doing daily fantasy entries against the Prize Picks projections. On Tuesday, I am taking Giannis Antetokounmpo to score over 30 points. I'm taking Robert Williams to get over 2 blocks. And I'm also taking Domantas Sabonis to get a triple-double. And where am I doing that? I am doing that on Prize Picks. Here's how it works. All you got to do is pick 2 to 6 players, and if they will score more or less than their Prize Picks projection, you can win up to 25 times your money on any entry, and it's not competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available. And Prize Picks offers projections on any sport that you watch, and that includes the NBA, NFL, MLB, NHL, PGA, college football, men's college basketball, and more. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. It's safe and fast withdrawals and currently operational in over 30 states and Canada. Just download the Prize Picks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive an 100% instant deposit matchup to $100 with the promo code LOCKEDON. If you deposit $100, Prize Picks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, Prize Picks will give you $50. Don't forget to enter the promo code LOCKEDON at sign up for an instant deposit matchup to $100. Okay, so here's how it all went wrong in the fourth quarter. Again, the Clippers went to the 3-guard set. Nico and Zoo out there with John Wall, Luke Kennard, and Norman Powell. And you know what you saw the Heat do? They went to zone. And here's the thing. The Heat were going small too. They had lineups with Bam Adebayo and then no true point guard, but a bunch of guard/wings. Like it would be Bam Adebayo alongside Duncan Robinson, Max Strus, Gabe Vincent, and Oladipo together. Like all those guys are like shooting guards. But they can switch when the Clippers are playing that small lineup. I'm not sure if the Heat play those guys all at once all the time. I know they've been short of front court guys this season with the loss of PJ Tucker. But when the Clippers are going that small, they can run that lineup in defense of that or in opposition to that and be okay. And you know what they started doing? 2 things. Went to that zone, and again, this time, I don't know if it was because Zoo wasn't getting the ball in the high post in the first half, that he wasn't even flashing to the high post in the second half when when the Heat went zone. But the offense was abysmal to watch. Again, I will never fathom how these NBA teams play against a zone defense and don't do the basic fundamental principles of how to break 2-3 zones. I mean, that was a defense that in my youth basketball, I played against that defense a lot because, it's used for reasons to make teams not get in the paint. And it's also used at times to hide weak defenders. Now, as far as the NBA and zones being played, I seldom used to see teams in the late 2000s and early 2010s run zones. And that's because there would be big lineups that would take advantage of offensive rebounds in the zone, and they would have guys that would play that high post. But now guys just continue to play the same way against zones that they play against man-to-man. And I think that's crazy. I personally think that's crazy. They still want to just run pick and roll. And what you were seeing in this game was Zoo was coming up at the top of the zone and not even setting a screen on the outside of the man. He was setting the screen in the middle. So if John Wall was to take that screen, he's going right into the top 2 of the zone. So when John Wall lost that ball in the beginning of the quarter, that wasn't fully on John, in my opinion. Even though I will say John didn't have a good game. John didn't have a good game because teams are starting to see that he is who everyone thought he was, and that is that he cannot hit from the outside. Teams are going to go under every single screen. When he's in transition, teams are going to back up and force him to go into them. He needs to keep defenses honest by hitting that in-between shot, and tonight it wasn't going for him, and he didn't have a very good fourth quarter, didn't have a very good game because he's not a great defender. He's average at best. He had 6 points. He was minus 11. 1 for 4 from the field. Only shot 1 3, thankfully. Did not make it. He did get to the line 5 times, though, and he made 4 free throws. And he played 22 minutes, which, I think he should have played less because what happened in that fourth quarter was, that Clippers were struggling to break by a zone because nobody would go in the high post. And then when they would play man, again, when Zubac is not setting the screen, they're going to switch every other guy that sets the screen. If Nico sets the screen, they're going to switch. If Norman sets the screen or Kennard, they're going to switch. And that's going to force John, Luke, Nico, or Norman to go one-on-one and create. That forces ISO ball. So when you see the Clippers going stagnant in that second unit, it's because teams know they can switch on those guys and they're not going to be able to create that much of an advantage. It's going to be one-on-one ball. The Clippers don't feed Zubac enough in the post. And they should probably look to do that more if they're going to go with those small lineups because John Wall isolation in the half court is not looking pretty. Every team's going to sag off and make him just run like a locomotive. The best isolation option in that second unit when Kawhi doesn't play or Paul George doesn't play is Norman Powell. And he just sadly didn't have a very good game tonight. I thought that there were some good shots created in that 3-guard set when they would put Zoo in the pick and roll, when we put Zoo in the pick and roll. Norman Powell got a couple of open shots that he didn't make. And he's been red hot lately, so he was just due for an occasional off night, and today was that off night. 9 points on 1 of 8 shooting and 1 for 4 from deep. Thankfully, Norm, in his foul-baiting way, still got to the line 6 times and made all of his free throws, so that was good. But he just wasn't hitting his shots. And then Nico Batum, he was 3 for 7 from the field, but 1 for 4 from deep, and he got 2 clean looks at threes in the fourth quarter and just didn't knock them down. So those were big that the Clippers couldn't get those big shots made by the supporting cast in the fourth. But what really shocked me, was that Ty Lue kept this lineup in and did it again. The same 3-guard set. And the Miami Heat, Indiana Pacers, both watched that Celtics game, and now the jury's out. Everyone knows, and it's weird because I feel like I've been saying it since the beginning of the season, that teams are trying to target Zubac in the pick and roll, but they should really be targeting Reggie Jackson. And now after that Boston game, teams are starting to see that when Luke Kennard and Reggie Jackson are out there in the fourth quarter, they're going to put them in the pick and roll instead of Zoo, because Zoo is actually a decent defender and he's going to funnel you into the paint. Reggie Jackson, if he's not switching, he's going to have to do a quick show and recover, or else they're going to get some pick and pop threes. And when he switches, it's a problem. And you started to see Luke Kennard and Reggie Jackson struggle a bit defensively and had a hard time playing defense without fouling. So what surprised me is that Ty left those guys in for so long. He brought Zubats in the game, or took Zubats out of the game at the 5-minute and 38-second mark of the fourth and brought Paul George in. So the one thing that was good was, even though we heard that Paul George went to the locker room, he came back and was still okay. But it was a 1-point game when Zoo came out at the 5-minute and 38-second mark. And mind you, Bam Adebayo is in the game right now without Zoo, and the Clippers aren't playing a big. They're playing with Paul George, Nico Batum, and then Reggie, John, and Norman. And by the time Reggie Jackson and Marcus Morris Sr., who played well in the third quarter, come in for Luke Kennard and John Wall at the 3-minute and 40-second mark, the Clippers are down by 8, 103-95. And one big play that I remember, the Clippers had just turned the ball over, and John Wall came up the court and just ran straight into Bam Adebayo, just 100 miles per hour, lost the ball. It was the second consecutive turnover for the Clippers, and Tyler Hero hit a tough right wing three to put the Heat up 6, and the Heat had a huge 7-0 run that was capped off by a Bam Adebayo putback dunk, in which, again, the Clippers couldn't stay in front of the ball because they had 3 average defenders out there and no rim protection, so Bam had a putback dunk. That really frustrated me. And you know the craziest thing of all? I'll tell you when we come back. BetOnline is your number one source for your sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. You got to get the latest odds and trends for every professional amateur league out there, from pro football to college bowl season, basketball, and soccer. We've got it all on betonline.net. On Tuesday, the Celtics are -8.5 against the Oklahoma City Thunder. I would honestly take that bet. I say they win by about 11 or 12. The money line is -360 for the Celtics. So go place your bets on them for tomorrow's games. Not many of them, or should I say Tuesday's games, not many of them today. If you love sports podcasts, you can even find those at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right. So the most appalling thing about the 3-guard set being in so long is that Terrence Mann didn't play a second in the fourth quarter till the game was decided. I think that it may be time to make a trade. And when I say make a trade, I mean before the deadline. And here's why. I've been saying all season that Ty Lue is eventually going to figure it out and will play the wings and lean into that. But I truly think that I really don't know if I could trust it anymore. The Clippers are 21-18. In 2 games, they're going to be at the halfway point of the season, and Paul George may not be healthy. That's a little concerning. The Clippers are lucky that the Western Conference is so, the parity is so great this year that it's so even and everybody's taking shots, beating up on each other. But New Orleans, Memphis, and Denver are going to slowly start separating themselves, especially with Brandon Ingram set to come back. I don't know when he's going to come back, but he will come back eventually for New Orleans. Denver, Jokic is playing such amazing basketball. The Clippers are in trouble. And Ty Lue may have to be saved from himself. And that means trading one of the guards. And I think right now the guy that seems to have the most place in the team that just doesn't seem to fit, and it really pains me to say it, unless he can be okay with just sitting on the bench, is John Wall. Because when Kawhi or Paul George are playing, one of them is in that can create shots. If the Clippers are staggering them, I should say, let me explain that better. If the Clippers are staggering them, meaning one of them is in at all times, the Clippers will have a major shot creator out there that they like. That is a better shot creator at this stage than John Wall. That does not mean they're a better passer, but they are a better shot creator because they can create for themselves. And because they're such a threat to create for themselves, they will create for others because teams will help off of others. John Wall is not creating those advantages. And that's one thing I feared before he even suited up for the Clippers, that he is not creating those advantages he once did. And I've been very supportive of him. But the problem is Ty Lue hasn't been able to manage the rotations properly. Terrence Mann, for him to play so decently in this game, 3 for 4 from the field, 1 for 2 from deep, 9 points, 5 rebounds. I don't know how he doesn't get credit for the steal that strip he had on Jimmy Butler. only turned the ball over one time, had the highest plus minus of any Clipper with +6, and is only playing 23 minutes, 7 less than Reggie, who was 4 for 10 and had the same amount of points in 7 more minutes. Marcus Morris played the same amount of minutes. He was 3 for 8, 3 for 5 from deep. I thought he actually played well in the third quarter and had 14 points and 7 boards. So Marcus, honestly, I thought he had a decent game, but he's playing 7 more minutes than Terrence. Norman Powell is playing 3 more minutes than Terrence, and he's 1 of 8. It's mind-boggling. And John Wall's only playing 1 less. John Wall and them stayed in till the 3-minute and 40-second mark. That's insane. That's actually insane. When the Clippers are already down 8, they put in Reggie and Senior. And, one thing I was disappointed was Paul George gets the ball right after that timeout when Bam Adebayo had the putback dunk. And he gets the ball at the elbow and hits. And then that was the only shot he took in the entire fourth. So even though he was not 100%, I think he still could have shot more, Paul George, in that fourth. There was a time where he put Tyler Hero on the pick and roll. Hero switched on to Paul George, and Paul George just went below the foul line and didn't even come get the ball. Like he expected he was going to get the ball there. And it was a very tough passing angle, and Reggie Jackson ended up taking a contested long 2, a terrible shot. But to me, Paul George needs to go get the ball there against Hero. That was really, I was really angry. If you check out my live stream there, I was really angry about that. But overall, Paul may have not been 100%. The fact that Ty Lue is just, this Terrence Mann not playing him is insane, especially when the evidence is in front of him. There's got to be analytics that prove that Terrence Mann is a net positive for this Clipper team at this point, and that 3-guard set is no good. And for Ivica Zubac to come into the game with 2 minutes and 3 seconds left when the Clips are down 7, I get he needs a rest, but those minutes were not managed properly. That Bam Adebayo was getting minutes without him in the fourth quarter with a 3-guard set out there. It's insane. So Hero made a pull-up to make it a 9-point game. And then Ty Lue put Terrence in at the end of the game to dribble the clock out. I thought that was so ridiculous. Again, I'm not going to say fire Ty Lue. I'm not going to say he's a bad coach, but he's not having a good season coaching. Is it all on him? No. Nico Batum missed open shots in the fourth. Norman Powell did not have a good game. Paul George could have shot more in the fourth quarter. Reggie Jackson. You can't even say Reggie Jackson had a bad game. That's who he is. He had a good quarter in the third when the momentum was all on the Clippers' side, but he doesn't bring that much to the table. And you know what? Amir Coffey is a switchable wing that can attack closeouts, that can hit the 3, is going to make the Clippers more athletic, is good in transition, and can guard, and he's not even getting a lick, let alone Robert Covington, who had another DNP in this game, could not get a minute, and guess who could use him really well? Tomorrow, the Miami Heat. So, Ty Lue, a trade may need to happen, I'm serious, and I hate saying that, or he needs to make decisions and bench certain guys, but I don't think he will because it doesn't seem like he sees that the 3-guard set is just a continuous problem for the Clippers. Teams know who to target on defense late in these games, and the Clippers aren't leaning into their wing-heavy approach. It's going to continue to be a problem. And now if Paul George is injured, the Clippers are in trouble. I don't know how much I can keep saying it. Do I think the Clippers can't win the championship? No. The dream is still alive. Can the Clippers win 60 games? That dream is dead and has been dead. Can they win 52 games, which I said was the other magic number? They have to go 31-12 the rest of the way. We shall see. I don't believe that the regular season is not important. I believe that it's where you build good habits. And right now the Clippers are not building good habits because Ty Lue isn't adjusting. He keeps running with this 3-guard set. It's been a problem since the beginning of the season. Terrence Mann hasn't been getting minutes since the beginning of the season. John Wall is not playing as well as he was in the beginning of the season. But Norman Powell and Luke Kennard and Nico Batum are. And Kawhi has been Kawhi. I just hope Paul George is okay. We shall see. The Clippers hit the road yet again. And their next game will be, they got 2 days off, I believe, actually. We got a couple days off, but you'll still get Locked On Podcast, that's for sure. And the next game is a doozy at Denver on Thursday night on TNT at 7 Pacific. That's going to be really tough. I do not see the Clippers winning that game, if I'm being honest, but who knows? Jimmy Butler in this game only had 9 points, which makes it that much more disappointing that the Clippers didn't win. But again, it was that fourth quarter where the Heat outscored the Clippers 29-17. The Clippers lose it 110-100, drop to 21-18 and 11-8 at home. And by the way, I heard "Let's Go Heat" chants today late in the game. For you Clipper fans that were there to not boo that, come on, man. That's shameful. I almost went to the game. Probably should have gone, but it is what it is. Heat move on to 20-18. So they started their season poorly, but they're starting to pull it together. Bam Adebayo was just phenomenal in this game. He made some really nice shots, even one-on-one. 31 points and 13 boards, including 5 offensive rebounds. He was the player of the game. 12 for 19 from the field, 7 for 8 from the line in 37 minutes of play. 31 and 13 is a hell of a stat line, and he was great. Kyle Lowry, not very good at all in my opinion. Just a lot of fouling, just missing shots. 6 points, 2 for 6 from the field. And then Tyler Hero, 23 points, 7 boards, and 3 assists on 7 for 15 shooting and 5 for 9 from deep. Victor Oladipo also chipped in with 15 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists on 6 for 11 shooting in 30 minutes of play. And then Max Strus had the highest plus-minus of any bench player for the Heat, plus 16. He had 13 points and 8 rebounds off the bench in 25 minutes of play. And he was 4 for 9 and 3 for 7 from deep. As for the Clippers, we'll start with the bench. Luke Kennard, as I said, he still had 11 points and only shot 4 times because he was 2 for 2 from deep and 3 for 4 from the field. Again, Luke may need to force some shots, but the teams are starting to read the scouting report and know you got to just chase him off the screens, blitz him if you even have to, and leave a guy open for a second, especially if John Wall is out there. And speaking of John Wall, 6 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 for 4 from the field in 22 minutes and 2 turnovers. Didn't think he played well in this game. Norman Powell, one of his worst games in a while, but just a bad shooting night. 9 points on 1 for 8 shooting and 1 for 4 from deep. Nico Batum, 7 points and 5 boards on 3 for 7 shooting and 1 for 4 from deep in 23 minutes of play. And another guy who only got 23 minutes was Terrence Mann. 9 points, 5 rebounds on 3 for 4 from the field and 1 for 2 from deep. So another extremely efficient night for Terrence, but not enough minutes. Can't get a minute in the fourth quarter. Insane. Reggie Jackson, 30 minutes of play. Don't think he played very well. He played well in the third like the others, but 9 points and 5 assists. One thing I like, though, is he only turned the ball over 1 time, but 4 for 10 from the field, 0 for 1 from deep. Just doesn't know time and place sometimes. And I thought in the third quarter when the Clippers could have even made their runs bigger, he was just hijacking shots from other guys. Zubats, not a great game from him, just totally got outplayed by Bam. Zubats, when he goes up against certain star centers, really shrinks at times. 10.7 rebounds. I still believe he should have gotten the ball more, though. And should have played more in the fourth. Played 34 minutes overall, and you don't want to burn him out. That's the thing. I just think, should have tried to match him up with Bam a little bit more minutes-wise. But easy to say in hindsight. 10 points and 7 boards for him on 4 for 6 shooting. Senior, 14 points and 7 boards on 3 for 8 shooting and 3 for 5 from deep. Thought he was pretty good, honestly. And then Paul George, 25 points, even though he only scored 2 points in the fourth. 25, 3 rebounds, 7 assists, but 5 turnovers. And the Clippers turned the ball over 15 times, and a third of those were by Paul George. And again, he really needs to clean up the turnover thing. 20 points off of those turnovers. The Clippers lose it 110-100. Let me know what you thought about the decision to not play Terrence Mann in the fourth quarter. Comment below. And remember to subscribe to Locked On Clippers and turn on the notification bell so you know every single time an episode is posted. And you can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel for even more basketball, LA sports, and Clipper content at all times. That's Dime Dropper on YouTube. We'll be back for another episode on Wednesday. The age-old proverb continues, go Clippers.